Hi everyone, my name is Mary Ajagbe and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm so excited again to be here. It's an honor to be here. If you're just joining me for the very first time, you're welcome. And if you are a returning listener, thank you so much for tracking with me. It is just such a joy to have you be a part of this moving train. Awesome. So yeah, I have something interesting that I wanted to talk about today, and I just really want to dive into the conversation. So I'd come across a quote by someone, whether it was a quote or a series of thoughts by someone on, IG one time. And it says that, if you were to be like the author of your own, so I'm paraphrasing, I'm not sure I can remember it correctly, but this is how it made sense to me. And if you were to write your own life, yeah, if you were to write your own life story yourself, you'd realize how much of a bad storyteller you are. Something of that sort. And basically bring it into facts. I think this is me. I'm not sure if I got the quote right, but I just wanted I think that's basically what it was saying, and how we could see that having God be like the author of your life story is so beautiful, right? And you know that I know for some of you, you might feel like, really, this life story that I am currently living, I don't think that it is beautiful, and yeah, pardon me. It would say that my own life story is, I'm not sure that it is beautiful, right? But that's exactly why God is the author of your story, of my story, of our story, and your story is beautiful. And I wanted to talk today about the fact that our story is beautiful. I'm gonna try, not to make this video too long, but just flow with me. You know how sometimes we look at our journeys, right? And the reason why we would say to ourselves and why we feel like our story is not worth telling is because of all of the glitches and the itches along the journey, the rough patches in our life story. And isn't it interesting? Come to think about it, that most of the time what we really focus on are the bad things that has happened in our life's journey. And we don't necessarily magnify so much the great things that has happened. We just stay so much in the trauma places, the places where there's pain, the places where there's been so much doubt, so much fear, right? We stay in the negative so much, and so when we get to look at our story, we magnify the the seemingly horrible things that has happened, and we stay there, and we look at our life's journey through those lenses, and we fail to forget that it's so beautiful. Your story is beautiful. Your life's journey, your life story is beautiful. I know that right now it might not even look like it, but I think that sometimes we don't even know how much of an inspiration we are. And I was having a conversation with a friend last night, and I was talking to him about, how, it's been such a journey. I was looking at my life's journey and basically just telling him how I had this overwhelm, this mental overwhelm. And the interesting thing that he said to me was, Mary, I don't think you know how much of an inspiration and a motivation you are to us that are looking at you from the outside. And I'm like, tell me something more. Inspire me, inspire me. But just thinking about it in retrospect, I mean, after the conversation, while we were still talking, though, I thought about it and I was like, And that's exactly what it is. Because we are in that story, it might not necessarily seem so pleasant, right? It might not, to us, like, what is it about my life? It's just basic now. I don't have the things that I'm supposed to have had. I don't have it yet. So what is interesting about my life story? But only if you would just take a moment, pause, reflect, look back, and ask yourself this. Your story hasn't entirely been filled with bad stuff. There's been such a beauty to your story. There's been there's been such a dimension and a dynamics to your story that I don't think if you were handed the pen, you would have written such a beautiful story like this. You wouldn't have. Trust me, I wouldn't have. And I know why we wouldn't have. Because we would have thought I would so imagine your life's journey, right? It would have just been, oh, I was born so this and that. I think there's a poem that talks about Solomon Grundy. I, I think it's Grundy, how literally the entire life's story and life journey of Solomon Grundy was, he was born on Monday, Christian on Tuesday, married on Wednesday, this on Thursday, this on Friday, this on Saturday. I can't remember the something on Saturday, and that is the end of Solomon Grundy. Literally coming through life, no impact, nothing felt, and that's the end of his life. The way he came was the way, of course, the way you come is the way you go, right? But then, no impact, nothing whatsoever to attach to the name of Solomon Grundy. And so many of us are looking at our lives like that, are looking at our life's journey as basic as what is there to be grateful for. What is this story of my life? If I beg God, I beg too much, is giving Nollywood vibes to is giving Hollywood vibes. I watched a movie recently. It's a Chinese movie though. I like to watch. It's one of the fun things that I do. And the childlike things that I do is that. In fact, have you seen my recent video that I did on Where's the Child in You? If you haven't watched that video, I want you to watch that video. Watch the video, like it, share it, subscribe it, whatever it is that you gotta do it. Please like and share, subscribe. So I watched this movie where in the beginning of the story, the beginning of the movie, it just seemed like it was going okay, and then when they were getting to the middle of this, I had to, honestly, I was just fast forwarding. I was just going. I'm like, nope, I can't even, So let me give a background gist to the drama. So they had this family where the female, the daughter, the second daughter, right, in the movie was a pilot, and she had a doctor. She has a so she later got into a relationship with this doctor guy whose family also, the father and the mother were separated, and the reason why they got separated was a lady whose marriage had ended. This lady's husband, right, had gotten into this relationship with the woman's best friend, and so literally the marriage ended, and seeing that her marriage has ended, wanted to commit suicide. And this guy's father, who was a doctor, found this woman when she was about to commit suicide, and of course looked at, as a doctor, is looking at her through the eyes of a patient, and so started to help her out. And this lady connived, with our sister, and they made a fake pregnancy test and went to this man's wife and said that the doctor, our husband, had been cheating, with her, and said a whole lot of things. The woman was just very angry. She didn't trust her husband. It was a whole lot of stuff. Anyways, basically, herself and her husband had 35 years of separation. Meanwhile, it was all a lie. I mean, it's interesting turnout. And so, the son was raised, now became a doctor now, and later became this lady's boyfriend. Of course, they got married at the end of it. But now I'm moving back to this girl's family, right? So the girl is a pilot, was born, and then at a point there was actually an accident that happened one time with this lady's ex-fiance and a brother who the father had spoiled so silly. Like, I was irritated watching the scene of this boy and his dad. It was so silly. I'm like, what is this nonsense? So the interesting thing that happened was I couldn't even stand it. And I'm sure, I was reading some of the comments, a lot of people were just bashing it, like, what is this nonsense, this one, But then I noticed that there were quite a number of people in the comment section who were also saying that, this movie just really talks about family, teaches about family, pay attention to it, watch it carefully. And, they had all of that going on. As I got to a point, I said, okay, you know what, let me even just pay attention. So I got to this part, after I'd fast forwarded a lot, I got to this part, and all of a sudden I realized that the entire plot of the story had shifted, had changed. This very spoilt brat came into an awareness, right, of himself. This ridiculous dad that was, what the dad had done was the daughter and the son had an accident with this girl's ex-fiance, and that was what broke the relationship. And when they got to the hospital, the girl was a little bit conscious, and so she heard the father say, so the doctor had asked who were they to save between the two of them, and the father had said, save my son. So the girl, still a little bit conscious, heard that and held it in her heart, not knowing now. She lived with this grief and seeing how the father was always coddling this boy child. The house that the girl had, he asked her to give it to the brother. The car that she had, he asked her to give it to the brother. If you watch this movie, you would literally be like, I can't, I just know, I give up on you people. But when I got to this part and I started to see the outplay and the change of what was happening, I started to think that, but isn't this how we are all very quick to judge our own life story and our journey, and how we plateau in negativity, and how we say to ourselves that I don't think there's anything good that can come. The same way they said, can anything good come out of Nazareth? And yet something beautiful came out of Nazareth. Our Savior, your Savior, the Savior of the entire world, came out from that very same place that was once upon a time had nothing good. They had nothing good to talk about Nazareth. They had nothing good to talk about the place that he had come from. And so you can look at your life's journey and your story and the dysfunction that you were born into, and how daddy was not there, and how mommy was not there, and how no parent was present, and how the people you lived with, how they maltreated you, and how something happened and how there was abuse, and how there was chaos and there was trauma and everything. And we can look at all of those very moments and create a narrative ourselves and put a ban on our story and say that I don't think anything good can come out of my life anymore. But I've come to you today to say this to you, that your story is beautiful. Yes, with the scars. Yes, with everything you've been through, your story is very beautiful. And trust me, there is a generation that is dependent on you coming into this realization and getting with God's program, so that what the author, is the author of our lives. I'm an author myself. I've written about how many books? I think 4 books now or so. And so I understand that when I begin to write, right, so my latest book, 30 Lessons at 30, which was to celebrate my 30th birthday, when I was writing that book, I didn't even really know what the end was going to be like, but I just knew I wanted to share 30 lessons from my life's journey. And when I got to a particular point, and with each one, as I started to write lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, lesson 4, lesson 5, I was writing till I got to lesson 30. And when I got to lesson 30, I knew that I had gotten to the end, and it was a beautiful end. And the interesting thing was, I stopped lesson 30 at a lesson that I was just coming into, and how I was about to be launched into a new season. And so I didn't just end lesson 30 as lesson 30. I ended lesson 30 as a prophetic utterance into this new season that I'm currently working in. And so I'm saying to us today that your story is beautiful. You don't even know the end of that story yet. Yes, I know there are people who saw you. There are people who have labeled you and thought that there is nothing good that can come out of this person. But can I dare say to you that until you decide to not get with God's program, only then can what they have said be a testament of the truth. And Then again, I say to you, that will you just get with God's program and see what the one who is the author, he writes the best stories ever. I love love stories. I love movies. I love things that has to do with happy endings a lot. But I've come to realize that the things that usually end with a happy ending, actually during the middle of the plot, they have very drastic, very drastic situations. And I know, yes, sometimes, I mean, I'm reminded of the story of the apostles and the disciples of Jesus, how some of them, how some of their lives ended. We might have thought about it, that that's such a pathetic end. How can you say that the end is beautiful? But it is, because we are the continuation of their story. And so that story hasn't ended. And so it ends when Jesus comes and we go to be with him. This is how the story ends. But in the midst of this building story, my question to you today is, are you getting with God's program? Because your story doesn't end with you. There are generations whose lives are dependent on this story, on this journey of yours. That there might be things that you might not necessarily step into, but that the Lord has released over you. But your generations will step into it. So the story doesn't end with you. So your story is beautiful. There is an assurance of the end that is beautiful. So why are you giving up on your life's journey? Why are you giving up on your story when God hasn't given up on it yet? So I challenge us today to come up higher in our thinking, to come up higher in our belief, to come up higher in the utterances of our mouth. That we would say to ourselves, my story is beautiful. God is writing something beautiful. There is something beautiful about my story, about my life's journey. Everything that I've been through is working towards something, because it is in the hands of the one who created the heavens and the earth. Nature is proof of how beautiful my life's journey will be. And enjoy the journey. Enjoy it. Enjoy the journey in the arms of God. Enjoy it. It's a journey. Yes, I know there's pain. Yes, I know there's trauma. Yes, I know there are so many things in the midst of it. But I have come to give you an outlook and a perspective that you haven't yet come into. And it is that your story is beautiful. So I dare us today, and I encourage us today, to begin to think and get with God's program for our life. I'm reminded of the song, you make all things beautiful. Pardon my voice. Enjoy it. You make all things beautiful, beautiful for me. It's a song by, I think, one of them. I can't remember his name right now. I can't, but I'm not sure if I should. Yeah, I just remembered his name, but I'm not sure if I'm to say it so that YouTube will not flag me as copyright. But it's on my word, right? But he makes all things beautiful in his time. He makes all things, all, not some, all things beautiful in its time. So you are getting to that part where there's so much beauty. There's so much beauty in your story. There's so much beauty that other people would hear and know that indeed I'm not alone. So hear this today. Your story is beautiful, and God is making all things work together for your good. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Please do. Well, yeah, I look forward to seeing you watch my next video, actually. Looking forward to seeing you in my next video. Lord, the things that we have to say. So, yes, if you have yet to like, share, subscribe, please do so. Like my videos, share them to someone who you know needs the encouragement that their story is indeed beautiful. Subscribe. Till next time. Love you guys. Bye.